podcast for those who suffer, which is everyone.
It's a space where we can speak honestly about what it feels like to be in desolate places without losing hope.
Welcome to In the Thicket.
Welcome to Advent, friend. Can you believe it? This Advent, we are having a series on the 4 themes of each week of Advent. So that's hope, peace, joy, and love. And we'll just have shorter episodes during Advent to share some of the ways that we find these beautiful things, hope, peace, joy, and love in the midst of all the craziness of the season or the pain that might sometimes accompany Advent and Christmas. And we hope that it's helpful for you.
Hi, you guys. How's it going?
Hi, Nicole.
Good day to you.
Oh, good day. And so my name is Nicole, and I'm here with...
I'm Erin.
And I'm Rachel.
Yay!
And welcome to our Advent episodes. So typically in Advent, we've done just like shorter episodes and talking about different themes. And so we'll get into that in a minute, but maybe I'll just check in with you guys. Rachel, how are you doing today?
I'm okay. Like mood wise, I'm usually all right, but like life wise, we're kind of we're at the end of semester, facing papers. There always is a paper, or maybe 2 or maybe 3, which is the entire number of courses that I take a semester, that I don't feel capable of writing in any way, shape, or form, that I'm like, this is just way above my pay grade and I actually don't know how to think about this, or I have anything to say, or don't know how to say it. And that's just always the case. So, that's just normal. So I'm going through that, but it always gets done one way or another. So by some miracle of God, that's how I am, just in the middle of that, which is sort of, I've got the hoodie on, my hair is up in a gross bun, and it's just bad, but it's good. It's fine.
That's the life, the student life. Yes.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Erin, how are you doing?
Yep, I just went and saw Wicked at the theater, which is awesome, and it was great. And I was telling Nicole when we first logged on that it took everything in me not to sing along with all of the songs and be one of those people, because that's so annoying. And I was like, I was so tempted. I'm like, I want to do it. I want to do it so bad.
I might do it. I mean, I haven't gone to it yet, but
they should have like singing screenings where it's like, this is, for people who want to sing along.
That's an excellent idea.
That's right.
Yeah, I think so.
That's great. Yeah, everyone who I've talked to who've seen it has said it was great. So that's fun.
It was awesome. I loved it.
That's great.
I loved it.
How
are you?
I'm good. I'm exhausted. I was hanging out with my friend's 2-year-old today, all day basically, and so she was kind of like coming along with me to my different errands, and we went to the park and different things like that. And it's like, and she was great. Like, she's a great 2-year-old, but I'm exhausted, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like when you're not used to parenting, it's like a lot to go from 0 to 1. And even when you're used to praying, I think parents are often exhausted. So kudos to the moms out there today. You're doing amazing.
Yes. You're very impressive people in general.
Yeah. Okay, so this is the first Sunday of Advent in the Western Church.
Yep.
Yes.
For the Eastern Church, we started November 15th.
Right.
For the Feast of St. Philip, which is St. Philip's Fast, which is kind of like our Advent. So,
nice.
And it's basically like a mini Lent. So you actually are fasting or abstaining from meat kind of all throughout. You're supposed to at least till Christmas, or you aim for that, or you discern kind of what kind of fast you're going to be doing. Anyway, but this is first Sunday of Advent for probably most of the people listening to this podcast. And so we're just going to be talking about the different Sundays of Advent and the different kind of, I guess, theological virtues.
There's like themes for each.
Themes. Yeah, exactly. Everyone knows that there's a theme for the third Sunday of Advent, because that's when the pink wears.
That's right.
The priest wears pink /
rose. Yes.
Technically,
right.
it's rose.
That's right. Yes.
Rose.
Which we all know is Joy Sunday. But fun fact, the other Sundays have themes too. So Erin,
they do.
They are.
They are. The first one is hope. The second is peace. The third is joy. And the fourth is love.
There we go.
And I'm kind of looking forward to like how these themes, because we're just going to be talking about, I think, our lives, right? Nicole's going to kind of lead the helm, but I'm expecting that these themes are going to intersect quite strongly with what's going on in our lives, because that's how the Lord works. So I'm excited for that.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah. Well, and I think like, I mean, we can talk about hope and we can talk about peace and love and joy from like a sort of abstract, philosophical, theological way. But,
Let's
you know,
not.
let's not do that. Yeah. Let's not do that. Also, as the least qualified like theologian here, I'm really happy to just talk about my experience because that's all I got, baby. Like I'm not, you know, I haven't.
As someone who's
done
like
the study.
attempting to write in the vein of that like something vaguely philosophical in a lot of my papers, I really just don't want to do it anywhere else at this point.
Yeah,
Just,
right.
like, anywhere. Don't ask
Yeah.
me to talk about this right now.
Yeah.
I'm not.
Yeah.
I mean,
Exactly.
and the reality is that the season is like, I don't know about you guys, but I feel like it's the same thing with Lent every year. Is like I enter into the Advent and Lenten season with these like high hopes of like the holiness and the beauty and the like slowing down and the, you know, like just the reflectiveness of this season. And then every year I get to the end of the season, I'm like, what the heck? Like, why was I twice as busy during this reflective season than I was, you know, just in rando January at some point? But yes, so I think that's a pretty common thing, especially leading up to Christmas, and it's actually a really hard time of year for a lot of people. So that's I think why we wanted to look at kind of the like these themes. How do we in our own lives find these beautiful things when we might be experiencing something of the opposite, like despair?
Yeah.
How can we find hope in places of despair?
Yeah.
So then I'll ask you
How
guys
can
this
we?
question. You know, because especially doing a podcast on suffering, we think about suffering a lot and you realize like, oh yeah, there's always some sort of suffering, you know? And it's like, sometimes even when my life has been really good, like there's been something at work, because we are on this side of heaven, like it's just the reality. So in whenever the things that you guys are experiencing lately, and we'll all answer this question, but where is the hope in the midst of those things? How are you finding hope? What does it mean? I didn't decide who wants to go first, but
I can
Erin,
go.
you want to go? Great.
Yeah, because I was praying just before we were recording, and I was like sitting in the chapel because I'm fortunate enough to have a chapel in our house, which is beautiful. So I was sitting in the chapel praying, and I was like, Lord, like I just know. Just nope. just no. I don't want to anymore, because there's like a few different situations in my life, but one in particular, someone that I love very much, who is going through a hard time, and they've been going through a hard time for years now, and it's like it feels like I was thinking actually about this experience of despair, because I'm like, I feel it in this situation because it feels like it's never going to change. It's going to be forever. It's like that it's not going to get easier, which is totally the experience of despair, right? Like it just closes in on you, and it has this way of obscuring anything, even like the good things that have been happening, because for this person, like they are much better than they have been. So there've been like actually pretty great things, but it's even hard to see those things, or that things are better, because it's still difficult.
Yeah.
And so then that whole closing, I was like, Lord, I can't, like, I just need, like, I don't know what to do with this. Like, I feel like this is this big ball of shit that I'm holding, excuse my language, but that's like exactly, and it's like there, and I'm like, I don't know what to do with it. Like, but then I kind of, like, I think he just reminded me in that moment of like, no, actually the hope is not necessarily for, you know, this thing changing, or this person being healed, or this thing or whatever. But like, there's always a hope in, like, it's a beautiful way of actually moving us to hope in eternal life, like in the ultimate solution to all of the pains of life, because there will always be pains of life, and this person may not ever have, you know, freedom or total healing in this life. It might always be difficult, but it will end, like that he's promised that it will end. Like, okay, so that's something that I can actually hold on to, because it's objectively something that will end. Like this pain and suffering will end. So the lies that despair tries to like tell me in those moments, I don't actually have to listen to them, that it will never end, because it will end.
Yeah. That's beautiful.
Oof. Yeah. No, I for some reason, what's coming to my mind when we're talking about this topic is just like my current state of life, which in some views is like a non-state of life, a non-vocational committed life, which I mean, if you've been listening to this podcast for a long time, you know that about me. And I'm, now in my mid 30s, not yet my late 30s, but it's not far from where I am now. But it's also, the funny thing is, I think I experienced a lot more despair, like when I was sort of approaching 30, and then in the couple years after I turned 30, like for some reason it has gotten easier. And I've been really looking at that, because I've been thinking about that, and because my situation has not changed materially. I mean, I've changed, I think, a lot. And it's been really interesting, because even through our podcast episodes, like one of the lessons that I've learned through us doing this podcast together is detachment is not a shutting down of desire. Actually, like, it's really important to feed and cultivate the desires that God gives you. And if you're called to a vocation, which all of us are, I mean, unless we die before we enter into a vocation, then we weren't. But it's like, that's not ever, you're never called not to a vocation. You have to really live your life open to a calling all the time, even if, no matter how long it takes. And when it doesn't seem like there is really a calling in a certain sense. I mean, I think the Lord is calling me, but there's times like when I, like in this journey, that I felt like, what the heck? Like, I don't know what you're saying. I don't really know what to do. And all those times make sense in hindsight. God was always doing something, but a couple lessons that I learned was like, being hopeful and being detached is not a shutting down of desire. It is just a true trust in God's providence, like that He actually does love me, that I can be brave enough to keep desiring something, even though desiring it is like killing me in a way, because it's so painful. It's much more painful to keep desiring things than it is to just shut down your desires and be like, let's just call it a day. Let's just be, like you said, Erin, like, no, I'm just kind of done with this question. Just no. And we're just going to close that up, put it away. And I'm going to live this sort of like just kind of detached gray life, because that's just so much easier. But we're not called to that. So then, but having desire can lead to despair, because you're like, I have desire, but it doesn't seem like there's any avenue for the fulfillment of this desire. And I found that, like, as I've kept going on this journey, that, that desire has actually led me to healing. It's led me to growth. It's led me to deeper relationship with people. And that pain has been very fruitful. It has not been, not that I'm supposed to hold on to the pain, but it has been something that's been given to me, and something that has been, in giving it back to the Lord, has been very fruitful. And so now I think seeing that happen over and over and over again, even though circumstances haven't changed, I feel very much more. I think I'm much more hopeful for my vocation now than I was 10 years ago, honestly, which is crazy, but it's true, So it's like, there is a work in us that the virtue of hope does, regardless of whether or not our circumstances materially change. And it does have to do, it's not like I'm hoping for like some nebulous thing. I'm hoping for my vocation. That's a material thing still. But it's sort of, I think it's where we locate that hope. So it kind of goes back to what you were saying, Erin. It's like, is my hope in my calling, or my hope in healing, or whatever it is that we're hoping for, is it rooted in sort of the satisfaction of an outcome solely?
Yeah.
Or is
like
it
a situation change? Is it rooted in some kind of fulfillment of something that's earthly, or
which it is to some degree, and it kind of should be, but that is stemming from like, I am in relationship with God and He loves me. That's always like, that's a now thing already. I'm already in that, and so living in that will be the fulfillment of my hope in some material way at a later time, because I'm already living it. I mean, I remember, Benedict's encyclical on hope, and I'm going to shut up now because I actually want to hear your take on this, Nicole. I don't want to talk the whole podcast, but I remember Benedict's encyclical on hope, Spe Salvi, where he talks about it a lot. And one of the things he says is like, hope is a not there and already kind of, not yet already kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I think sometimes when you're kind of in despair, there's got to be a way, and at least that's been the way that God's hooked me back in. There's got to be a way that the hope is an already situation. And I have to look for the already in my life in order to be able to cling on to the not yet part. And be like, you know, that there really is a God who loves me. I have to sort of see that. I have to see that somewhere. And if I don't see it anywhere, and I think that's when despair really sets in, as if like we are not able to see in any way, you know, that God loves us. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, and I think it's like, okay, here's my one abstract theological comment of the day, but like of that hope is a theological virtue, which is we believe that it's not something that we can like attain ourselves.
Yes.
But it's something that is given and cultivated in us.
Yeah.
That we can receive it and we can accept it and like, you know, not like push it away, but it's not like we can like force ourselves to have hope too. And I think that was key for me. I mean, we've talked about a lot of this on the show about like hoping for one another when one person is in his place, but for something that I've been kind of going through this last year and especially this fall, starting to kind of deal with it more, have that opportunity. I have had moments where I've been in despair where I'm just like, I don't even want to work on this anymore. I don't care. Let's just not.
Yeah.
I just don't want
Just
to,
no.
you know,
Yeah, just
no. Like, I'm not even going to try. And talking with actually my therapist about this. And I was just very much saying that. And I was like, I actually just I'm not even interested in trying to heal from this anymore because it's just too hard. It's too painful and it's not working. And so I'm done. Like,
Yeah.
And she was so helpful in pointing out. And but there was also like a shame where I was like, I know I'm not being hopeful right now. And I feel bad about that. But also I don't want, it was like this like tension. But she kind of was helpful in pointing out like, well, you know, you've kind of got a lot going on right now. It makes sense that you're feeling like you don't want to work on this right now, or you're not ready because you actually have a bunch of these things. And so maybe just like, that's okay. Maybe just like hang on and just like, don't actively try to fix this right now and just kind of wait. And it's almost like she gave me permission to not do hopeful things.
Yeah.
In a sense, not force myself to try to hope when I felt, and actually that in itself was hopeful.
Exactly.
Because it was this acknowledgement that, oh yeah, this is not something that I'm going to fix on my own. And this is something that is going to be healed in me. I don't even know if I'm articulating that quite well, but and it's been amazing, you know, kind of as time has gone on this fall and different things that like the healing that I've received is of things that I didn't know I needed healing for. I had no idea that they were operating in me. And the thing that the thing that I was been worried about is not fully better, but the things that I've been healed at, it gives me hope because I realize like there is so much more at work here in my life than I am even aware of. And I just need to kind of just hold on a second and trust that God is doing something like pretty incredible, some incredible healing. And yeah, on the surface, it's like, it is hard. And it's not just on the surface, it's hard. It's like actually is hard. But that also gives me hope to see like, and see little changes and little signs of growth and little things. Has been, you know, realizing that when certain things happen, I don't react the same way, or I don't have the same feeling because actually there's some healing that's happened because of all this stuff. So those things kind of give me hope too. So I think those are,
I feel, I think, like, even as you're talking, I'm like, I can, like, the Lord plays a long game with things, you know, like, to growth and to greater hope and all of these kind of things. But I feel like sometimes when I'm in that spot where I feel like a sense of despair, like even when you were talking about feeling guilty, there's sometimes a part of me that doesn't want to actually like turn to the Lord and ask him for something that will fill me with hope, because I'm like, I want to offer my sufferings. I want to be a good Catholic who, like, you know, accepts the sufferings from the Lord and offers them, which actually I can do at the same time as asking him for like for hope, you know, like to speak into it. But I think there's also sometimes this part of me that doesn't believe that he will. So like I'm more comfortable in staying in my despair and my difficulty or whatever, and just trying to offer that to the Lord, than I am at asking the Lord to increase my hope, because there's a part of me that's afraid that he's not going to do it.
Yeah.
Because I think, kind of like you say, Nicole, even like you never know how he's going to change things, and he answers things in these weird ways, and he changes things that we don't even see needed to be changed. So it's like there's like a part of me that sees that maybe hope can only come from a resolution of this thing or a change of this thing, but actually that's not true. Like he can increase the virtue of hope in me or give me hope in ways that are way wider than that. So then sometimes it's hard to trust him, because I don't see that he could change a situation. And because I forget that he actually can bring hope in such a vast array of ways that I can't even comprehend, you know? And I've had that experience before, which is the funniest thing, you know, when you're like, I'm such an idiot. Like, I know that God can do these things. And still I'm like, well, I'm just going to wallow in my despair and be a good Catholic and offer it up for souls. Sorry, I was like dancing
Your
like a
voice
troll
just
there.
became like, I was like, what is this voice that we've got going? Okay, cool.
That's a good Catholic voice.
That's
just
a
in
good
case you were ever.
Yes, right.
Yeah,
that's what a good
right,
Catholic sounds like. Yeah,
exactly.
You're right. I'm familiar.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I was thinking when you were saying that, Erin, of this song, I feel like Sarah Groves is so good lyrically, and I feel like I just always bring up her songs. I do listen to other artists.
She's great.
Yeah, I do, you know, but there's a song that she has on one of her early albums. I think the whole title is actually just Painting Pictures of Egypt. I think that's the name of the song. And she basically, the chorus is like, I've been painting pictures of Egypt, leaving out what it lacks, because the future feels so hard, and I want to go back. And there's like this sense of like, you know, we don't, which is not exactly what you're saying. I think what you're saying is a little bit different than that, where you're like, I want to stay here, which is actually just a really hard place. But it's kind of like you want to stay in Egypt. So you haven't left Egypt. Like you're in Egypt right now, you know, you're in exile, you're experiencing exile, and God, maybe there's a little whisper of this guy, Moses, around the corner, you know, and you're like, I don't know. I don't really want to even entertain that, because that's just ridiculous. Because I've been here.
What if it doesn't pan out? What if it doesn't do? Yeah.
I've been here for just so many years. It's just not an option. Like, I can't even imagine that freedom is actually possible here. And I think, you know, that is so, all of us, like, it's so understandable, and it's so, because it's what we know. Like Egypt is what we know. And we've talked about this so many times, that like healing, hope, these are things, pathways into somewhat unknown territory. And it's so vulnerable to give yourself to that, you know? But this has been a theme for me recently. It's like, I realize if we don't give ourselves to that, we sort of become like zombies, you know, we sort of, lose like the dynamism of our lives, like it goes, you know, because we get stuck.
I think that's so true.
Yeah, we don't want to be zombies, but you know,
Lord help us.
Yeah. Lord, that was a little natural that came out right there to call Lord help us.
Yeah, maybe
a little bit.
That's good. Awesome. That for some reason reminded me of Father Chris Kellerman, who was in Louisiana for a while, and he was like, here's a good saying from the South: look at God showing off when God does something awesome.
That's funny.
God showing off.
I heard that one. That's great.
I loved that. Oh my gosh.
I know, it's fun.
Yeah,
I'm keeping that one.
But it's very true what you say, though. Like the devil you know is
better than the devil
you don't know. Yeah, which is, it's so easy to fall into that too, you know. It just is really easy to fall into that, especially when there's external stuff. Like this comes back to kind of the season, even, you know, in the busyness of the season and things like that, because especially when you're like, I mean, you guys are a professor and a student. And so, you know, when you're bogged down by exams or marking or like all of these kind of things, or for families at this time of year, there's a lot going on, and then you're Christmas shopping, and then you're all of these kind of things. It's like, it's actually in some senses easier to let yourself stay in Egypt, because it takes a lot of energy to look to the promised land. Like, and to actually, you know, to intentionally do that when there's just externally so much that's going on too.
Totally.
And then, like, if you think of the story too, like the journey of the promised land was not easy, y'all. Like, it was not easy. And you know, and then when you think, I was thinking when you said Advent, I was like, right, because even Jesus as sort of, in quotes, I mean, this is such a reductionist way to think about Jesus as our savior, but in a certain sense, right, he just was not the Messiah, the kind of messianic dude that people were expecting. So it's like, you're...
Sorry, I just like that phrase.
Messianic dude.
You know?
Can we just pause for a second?
I love that.
If we ever do like stickers or something as a podcast, Messianic dude is going to be
little
sure
like
there.
shadow of Jesus, you know? Messianic dude. Anyways,
Nice.
I'm so sorry, Rachel. That
No,
was
I'm
too good.
I'm happy we could totally pause there. But yeah, you know, he just wasn't. So people were like, I don't know, this is really hard. You've been praying for, in quotes, a solution to a big problem for like centuries, and then it comes and you're like, this is it, like what the heck, you know? Sometimes, and I think so, sometimes we're like, oh my gosh, I don't really think I'm even gonna like the solution. I don't even want to pray for it because it's probably gonna be disappointing. But it's so crazy, because it's like, it's not actually just, if like, we just have to trust that it's something bigger than what our immediate reaction wants to tell us. And sometimes it's immediately bigger. I mean, we've all had those experiences where God is, where you could like say, look at God showing off, because you really feel like, whoa, that was bigger than I could have ever imagined, right on the surface, like right at, you know, right at go. But even if it's not, I think we can trust that actually it always is. Somehow it always is, you know? And the incarnation is the perfect like example of that. Even if we don't have it in our own lives, like Jesus is that, who he is, his life, the cross, the resurrection, like these are, this is what we can boast in. Like, this is what we stand on. It's there for us, and it's real, you know, he really came, and it's like, cool. Okay.
And it's like cool.
And it's cool.
That was the best. I love it.
I'm just really tired. So this is just me being exhausted.
Nice.
You're welcome.
Love that. All right.
Sweet. Well, the moral of the story, friends, is be of good hope. Be of good hope. And because, what did you say, Rachel? The dude? What dude?
The Messianic
dude is cool.
Is coming. He's coming to help you. And if
coming.
you don't have hope, he's going to do it for you, because
Look
it's
at
not your
God
job.
showing off.
It's
That's
good.
right. Exactly. Amazing. I love it.
All right.
All right, ladies. Looking forward to next week. We're going to be talking about peace.
That's right.
Very topical. God bless you.
God bless you. Bye.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of In the Thicket. If you like what you hear, give us a rating and hit that subscribe button. We have new episodes every Monday with more stories and honest conversations about life when the going gets rough, and the hope and humor amidst it all. We'd love for you to join our community on Instagram and Facebook at In the Thicket Podcast. While you're there, let us know how we can pray for you. God bless, and see you next week.